In case you didn't know, we host the Industry Insight series every month. It highlights trends and issues within the legal space, and this month's session is extra timely, just coming off the heels of ILTACON. So 2 weeks ago, Latera Microsystems sent a large team to ILTACON, and today's speakers, Simon Dandy and Matt James, were part of that team that went to National Harbor to see the latest and greatest in legal tech. Simon and Matt are members of our evangelist team, and while they were at ILTACON, if they weren't in a session, they were talking to attendees about the challenges and priorities facing law firms. All these insights and conversations were gathered together to form today's session, an ILTACON review and recap. So here's a look at what Matt and Simon are planning on covering today during our time together. They'll walk us through the event from the perspective of a technology provider, highlighting the specific sessions and trends that generated the most buzz amongst our team and the attendees at large. Our webinar is going to run 30 minutes with time at the end dedicated to addressing questions and comments. So whether you attended ILTACON in person or just read things about the event, we'd like to hear more about your experiences. You can enter comments, ideas, and questions into the questions window on your screen at any time during the presentation. Simon and Matt will answer as many items as they can in the time we have allotted for Q&A. So with that, I'll pass it over to Simon and Matt, who can talk about what they learned at ILTACON.
Thank you, Steve. This is Simon, and hi, everyone. So, as you probably know, ILTA is the premier legal technology peer organization, and ILTACON is their annual conference. And it's an event that their year revolves around, and it's also one of the highlights of the legal technology year. It's always a huge investment of time for both law firm attendees and vendors, or now known as business partners in the new ILTA era. And expectations and aspirations are always high going in. But this year, many people were a little unsure as to whether that would be the case because of the horrible year that ILTA has had. They had a sudden departure of their CEO and the imminent departure of some of the critical long tenure staff items. So we didn't know what this was going to be like. But it turns out we need not have worried. The state of legal technology industry is strong, and their support of this annual event was demonstrated by the record-setting attendance of over 1,800 law firm attendees. And usually there's around the same number of vendors or business partners that attend too. Amazingly, 700 of the 1,800 that attended were first-timers. So that's great for the events, great for ILTA to have such new blood coming in. Personally, this was my 10th ILTACON and my 3rd as a vendor, but being a vendor is actually much harder work, I'll tell you. Despite the fact that we only get half as many drink tickets as law firm attendees, so we could do with the extra drinks, really. But each of these events has an official theme kicked off by the keynote, and also a flavor based on who attends, the quality of the sessions, what's hot in the industry, and which vendor products get the most buzz. This year's theme was really innovation. There was a separate innovation track. There were innovation awards. It was a highly overused term at this conference, and one that most of us were fed up with by the end of day one. But it's a relevant topic. And the keynote, if I can switch slides there, is always the kickoff to the conference. And it's always worth attending the Monday keynote because it does set the scene for the rest of the week. And it often gets referred back to in many of the sessions where people kind of try and relate things back to this theme. This event was definitely standing room only. In my opinion, from past years, it wasn't as inspirational as some of the past keynote speakers who had some personal experience or journey they'd been on. But it was innovation themed, and it did give some simple takeaways on how to force change before change is forced upon you. And it's definitely an important topic for the legal industry. It's an industry that is in this multi-decade-long struggle to move away from the old way of doing things. So the exhibit hall is another way to take the temperature of an ILTA conference. And this year, our team saw a huge spike in traffic, and we had great customer conversations at the Latera Microsystems booth. So that's usually where we see and get a feel for how the conference is and what's going on in the industry. We had great traction in the exhibit hall. And this was our first time coming to ILTA as the new combined Latera Microsystems company. It was at ILTACON last year where we kind of dropped the news about the merger of Microsystems, the Sackett Group, and Latera. So this time it was a perfect opportunity for us to talk to customers about what we've been working on and the new product offerings in Latera Desktop and Clause Companion that we were showing and demoing. And this year we took a team of about 30 people. So you would have seen us all over the place. We were one of the biggest vendors in that respect there. And we did over 200 booked meetings, and our demo room was just nonstop. But the National Harbor venue is actually really good for that because it means you don't have to walk half a mile or a mile even to get somewhere, where some of the venues in Las Vegas are challenging in that respect. It's worth taking a step counter with you, as well as some additional money. So another thing that we did this year was the Changing Lawyer Awards. In 2017 at ILTACON, we actually released the Changing Lawyer publication, it's a collection of articles about the legal landscape and the trends transforming our profession. Our goal through this publication and the related webinar series that our team do is really to provide legal professionals with market insights influencing their business. And this year we released an updated version of the Changing Lawyer with fresh content, new articles, plus to really raise the profile and celebrate the people and firms who are leading change with delivering change in legal. We had our inaugural Changing Lawyer Awards. And this was, again, standing room only, where we revealed the winners from the hundreds of nominations that we received. The awards were judged by a panel that included well-known professionals from the legal sector, such as Bob Ambrogi, Jeff Brandt, Casey Flaherty, Ivy Gray, Caroline Hill, and our CEO, Avanish. And Sherry Capel announced the winners. Here are the winners of those awards, and they received one of those nice little statues. We were really pleased with how this went. We were really pleased with the submissions, and we learned a lot in the process from actually looking at those nominations and seeing what was going on in the industry. So this is definitely a keeper, something we'll be doing in future years too. As usual, there's a fantastic mix of sessions, but it can be somewhat hit and miss as you plan your agenda for ILTA. The good news is that ILTA provides audio recordings for most of the sessions. So if you do hear some good buzz around a session, you can either stream it or download the session available from the iltacon.org website. The link is on the slide there. I have downloaded several of these files to listen to on my travels. And we have a few favorites that we wanted to make you aware of. First of all, the keynote that, if you didn't attend, was interesting, as I said, I particularly liked the tabletop exercise that the presenter was talking about, where firms or teams can discuss how to kill their company, how to disrupt their business, looking at it from the outside. we had amazing attendance at our Office 365 sessions. So there were 3 one-hour sessions hosted by Sherry Capel, Jeffrey Roach, and Donna Payne. And then Ben Weinberger's son, a 15-year-old, hacked into a law firm network, or showed how he could. That was a really good session, and that was something we heard a lot of people talking about. Another security-related one, talking about the anatomy of a data breach. Best practices for evaluating and implementing legal technology, something that's very close to our hearts. And chatbots. Matt Miller from Latera Microsystems moderated this. Really interesting topic I heard a lot of people talking about. And then finally, the many flavors of Microsoft Office. And if you listen to this, you should have your own jelly beans ready. And I'm going to hand over to Matt to talk about the trends that we heard about.
Great, thank you, Simon. So as we speak to trends, one of the things that I'll obviously be leaving out of this is the security conversation, and that's really a staple to ILTACON, right? It's heavily discussed, not only as session topics, but also at the end of any sort of session around some of the capabilities or focal points and how security needs to be considered for those types of applications and how to use that. And as mobility becomes more and more of a focus, those are always discussed. So that isn't something that we will harp on today over the next couple of slides, understanding that that is common across the board when attending these ILTA sessions and just conversation in general. What I do want to discuss is something to me that has grown over conversation in the last year, but was really relevant as we had face-to-face conversations at ILTA. So as Simon talks about some of the sessions that he was able to attend and being around the exhibit hall, I'm of the breed where it's very hard to gain any sort of exposure to vitamin D as we're locked away in these demo rooms. But the benefit to that is being able to have conversations with so many individuals across the marketplace and identify what common themes we tend to hear. And those have really been more so around the integrations across the vendors or those business partners, where there's starting to be a less accepted fragmented desktop approach, right? We have all these point solutions, and it's a little bit of a balance with Microsoft and their continuous updates, but we're starting to get to a point saying that it's almost ridiculous that the business partners are not working with one another. So the given and often what I've referred to as permission to play is we must integrate with the document management system. That's where all of the firm IP lives. We still know 70 to 75% of content is generated from that repository. So being able to integrate with that is a given. Microsoft Office, where the majority of time is spent, and now more and more the Microsoft Windows focus of the operating system that you're on, right? When we're moving to Windows 10 and things like that. So that's pretty standard permission to play, as I said. But the newly desired, and these are themes that come up time and time again in conversations. And as an organization, we had over 250 meetings in our demo room over a 3.5-day period, and these are constantly coming up, which is we need to understand how the technology is going to work across platform. We'll see in the next slide, there's a lot of discussion around cloud, and we're starting to understand that content is accessible through different devices and different platforms, and we want that experience to be the same. So those are some of the questions, maybe checkbox type of questions at this point, but asking on how this would work in a different sort of environment. The create space, as we call it, is something that is constantly being discussed, right? Not only do we have solutions in that space, but you're hearing a lot around automating some of the redundant tasks. And those are not only internally as we're reusing content or rebuilding work product, but also in the common questions that we know we're asking our clients and the information that we need to gather to maybe put together engagement letters or NDAs or things that are commonly being produced. The AI and advanced search is really the big one in the list here for me. These document management systems are now in millions and millions of documents. different workspaces, and we need a way of gathering information around what content lives in that document management system. And the DMS itself really isn't capable of having that advanced search. So we're finding a lot of advanced search and AI technology that's laying on top of that, and able to generate insights into what should be common language, what we should be using, what practice areas should do that. That really plays into the knowledge management space. And then the next piece is that it needs to integrate with lawyer tools, right? So one of our heavy showcases at ILTACON was about our Latera desktop, which is a end-to-end solution for lawyers to be able to create high quality work product and meet the demands of their clients. And what we're finding is that those tools live within Word where the lawyer is, but a lot of the AI and advanced search capabilities are found in the browser. And there's really that need for the two to work hand in hand to prevent the need to screen hop or the common theme that we hear of saving clicks. And as I pointed out at the bottom here, less and less acceptance, which I think is the right route to go, hold the business partners accountable for this fragmented and piecemeal type of desktop approach. As I somewhat alluded to the cloud conversation, there seems to be less of cloud fear, right? Over the years, we've heard we're never going to cloud. Don't even say cloud in conversation with us. You've lost us the moment you say that. I would say that that's starting to go away, and it's more of the focus on, well, where is my data going to live, right? So in that second bullet point down there, where more of a focus on where my data is. And that's mainly due to the fact that we understand that cloud is starting to be something we need to embrace. We need to embrace it from DMS architectures, the fact that we can start to access our data and our documents and our IP from mobile devices, or that maybe that's where a particular document management system stores everything in the cloud. I had spoken to Microsoft's subscription model, pushing everybody into a scenario where you need to update more consistently, where it's less proprietary type of licensing and more user-based licensing that allows you to go cross-platform. And then a common theme around managed services, which say, let's get this off of our plate as something that we need to spend our IT resources on. Let's put that somewhere where it's managed, likely outside of our network, and free up our IT to do more beneficial tasks like providing less of the plumbing and more of lawyer efficiency tools. And as I talked about the focus on data, the hot topics are, there's actually a mistake that I made there, but we'll put that in there, but the chain of custody, as well as the high profile customers where we need to know where the banking and finance content remains at all times. That last bullet point there is I heard from multiple firms that in the cloud version of Adobe Pro, they're not 100% certain when they convert to PDF where that data is at all times, and there's hesitations in using that, right? So it's less about the version of the cloud, it's more about let me understand where everything is at every point in time, and having those insights really opens our capabilities and our day-to-day to easier ways of working as we talk about mobility and cross-platform technology. Simon had mentioned that there was a session that I partaked in that was around the many different flavors of Office. And what you'll see here is a picture that I took of the live poll around external factors that would be driving the migration plan. But these are common amongst any conversation around how technology is being brought into the firm, where time is being spent, what are those challenges, or what are those concerns that you think of as you start to make change. And a lot of that, as you'll see, was impacted by dictated by the end user impact. That very bottom one there, which is 65% of individuals said that is one of the external factors driving their migration plan. And that impact can be good or bad, right? That impact could be, I know that this is going to allow my users to work in a better fashion. Maybe it replicates the environment that they're used to at home, because personal PCs tend to be on the later technology, and that makes it just easier for younger associates coming in. Or maybe it's that I think this is gonna disrupt our users, and we need to avoid that. And we'll see that as we start to look at technology and firm initiatives around some of the needs to take advantage of efficiency tools and quality tools, there is a heavy focus on the end user impact, right? POCs and evaluations are no longer just something run by IT. We are getting those who would actually use the technology involved in that process to say, does this complement your workflow? Is this something that would make your life easier? Or is this going in the complete opposite direction? We've spoken with many individuals who said the priority is actually dictated by, are we dissatisfied with what we have today? Polls that go out that say, do you have the tools that you need? Are there gaps in things that you have that you'd expect from technology? Or as we have a lot of lateral hires coming across saying, I had this at my old firm, what are those? Or maybe there's just a poor process. Maybe we're still relying on a secretary to do something when we're remote, as opposed to having the tools that allow us to be a little bit more self-sufficient. And then the avoiding of disruption is huge, right? Let's avoid unnecessary extra clicks. Let's not make people move away from the application that they're in just to come back to that. And as I had said, a lot of the vetting of technologies around user acceptance testing and the usability, and less so around IT vetting that out. That's more along the lines of conflict resolution. And then one of the last pieces here was a quote that I heard in a meeting from a C-level individual, and I thought it was very, very compelling and something that has stuck with me as a takeaway as I came from ILTA, which was that we want our first-year associates to work like third-year associates and bill like fifth-year associates. And just thinking about that, and from a technology perspective, it sounds like an efficiency solution there, but I think it's much more than that, right? So if we kind of break it down into what our first-year associates are doing, they're often finding themselves unfamiliar with content that's available to them, or what their partner would like from a particular language perspective. So it's not just about efficiency, it's having the resources available and knowing that this is the type of language that I should be using, or this is where I should direct my attention when working on a matter like that. So it's capabilities such as clause banks, it's capabilities such as that advanced search that sits over the document management system. It's the ability to quickly surface content that we know would be appropriate for that. And working like a third-year associate then has additional tools on top of that that allow you to surface those mistakes, that allow you to identify inconsistencies once you've identified a language that is appropriate. And then obviously being able to bill like a fifth-year associate means that you're tying all of those elements together, and you're really able to produce that high quality work with the pressures of the client demands. And embracing technology is really the only way to do that today. I've talked about this in some of my previous webinars, but I think it's really important to identify that human nature and the way that the brain works is designed to identify a fix to a problem. And when we identify a problem, that the brain puts a fix to that and thinks everything is in working manner. But the reality is some of the hardest challenges are related to multiple things going wrong at the same point in time. And it really takes a checklist or a technology to be able to identify those concurrently happening, so that we address all of it, as opposed to thinking that you've quickly identified the challenge and how to alleviate that. And I think that is exactly what technology is designed to do today. So I know with a couple of minutes left here, we had a question for you, which were, what were your experiences if you did attend? And I also know that maybe some questions here had been trickling in during the webinar that we'd like to answer as well.
Awesome. No, great insight, Simon and Matt. Clearly you guys were busy during the event, a lot to cover, and you guys did a great job walking through it. So yeah, as Matt mentioned, feel free to throw in comments, questions for Simon and Matt to answer, but we've got a couple here that we'll go ahead and start with. This first one's from John, and he asks, was there an issue or theme at ILTACON that you thought would get a lot of attention but didn't?
So I could start, and then Simon, you could jump in as well. For me, I don't necessarily think it was a theme that didn't get attention. I thought more specifically some of the topics that fall under the AI, right? So blockchain is one that jumps out to me. That was hugely discussed, that and smart contracts and what the impact would be on lawyers and all of that. And I thought that would have been heavily discussed. I do know it came up, but it came up more in a theme of buzzwords around AI and getting an understanding of what technology is available out there, what it truly means, timelines around it. But I didn't see as much around those smart contracts, the blockchain, and the concept that you would potentially have a new breed of lawyer, which would be more of a programming mindset where you could actually enforce the law or conditions based on these contracts that you wrote, and really automate that process a bit. So I didn't see as much specifically around blockchain, even though I think it was covered more in an AI umbrella.
Yeah, with blockchain, there was actually an event earlier on in the weekend that some people arrived early and went to, and the feedback I heard on that was that it was either too high level and not enough detail, or it was too much detail and people didn't understand it. So there's a middle ground there. And a quote I heard on AI, which I thought was great, is that we call it AI until we understand what it does, and then we just call it software. So yeah, that was my thoughts. I guess the only other thing was the DMS stuff. DMS really seems to be seen as a commodity now. I was at the large firm takeaway session on the last day, and they were talking about how NetDocuments and iManage are the two go-to players, right? Nobody in their right mind would consider switching between one or the other based on uptime or whatever else it was. You just need to be there, it's a huge investment, but you need to do it. And there were some people there that were switching from OpenText, which also seems to be really on its way out now. I hope nobody from OpenText is on this call. So what other questions do you have, Steve?
Yeah, so we got another one here. This one comes from Anne. She asks, what made this year's ILTACON distinct from years past?
Go on, Matt.
You've been to 10, I've been to 6. So what, maybe you start this one off and I'll add.
I didn't think there was any one hot topic that jumped out. There was certainly a lot of talk I heard about user adoption, and really getting the most out of your software, looking at the total cost of ownership. And when we were showing people the Terra desktop, that certainly resonated with people. People instantly, they didn't need too much explanation as to why you need to reduce clicks or why you need to keep people in Word, not jumping around to other programs. That just seemed to be, oh, yep, that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to get the most out of our applications, and there's so many applications that we have that people just don't use.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of almost a shameless plug for us, but I think over the last 2 years, we've really put together our publication called The Changing Lawyer. And I've had more and more conversations around that and the trends and conversation really about how the market is handling pressures of everything, right? The workforce, you name it, and less about product, right? So I would think years past, when we were in the demo room, we were demonstrating product to show how it works, feature and functionality. Now we're speaking, and it ties in with the user experiences. We're speaking to how is this going to affect a trend? How is this going to affect the way that our clients are expecting us to work? How is this going to, handle the fact that we have a growing amount of users who expect technology or an app for this, and that we're not necessarily getting the loyalty that we would out of those. So I just think having a physical publication over the last 2 years that has that background has been able to really elevate the conversation from just a standard product click and talk about a feature demonstration.
Awesome. Great stuff, you guys. That's all the time we got for today. If you asked a question we didn't get to, I will follow up with you guys directly after the webinar. If you're interested in seeing what other webinars we have on the roster, you can view and sign up for the full list at latera.com/webinars. I want to thank Simon and Matt for sharing their insights with us, and thanks to all of you for joining. We hope to see you on another webinar soon, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, everyone.